welcome to another episode of the Superbold podcast. I'm Fred Joyal, and I'm here with Mo Salami today. And as you know, I like to dig into people's lives and their bold moves that they made along the way and the times they hesitated and missed out and got a regret instead and what they did about it. Now, Mo, I'm really excited to talk to him. We're part of Brand Builders Group, which is an amazing organization based in Nashville. But Mo's got an incredible background, along with speaking 5 different languages. He's big in the Romance languages: French, Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, amazing. But he's an online marketing expert, and he's a certified coach, and he was a senior mentor for Tony Robbins' organization and generated millions of dollars in sales for that organization. And he's got thousands of hours coaching out there, helping businesses grow. And we're going to talk about all this stuff. You're going to get staggering value about it, but we're going to get right into it now. Mo, so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and let's do some bold things on this call.
Yes, but for sure. Yeah. So your primary focus now is to coach uh, businesses and how would you say you impact them? What is what you impact the most in a business when you're coaching it?
So, coaching businesses for me means two things. One is the impact via growing or scaling your online business. And then secondly, 80% of success, more than that even, is the mindset. So we deal with the mindset piece, the high performance piece, and also the strategies for the actual online business itself.
Yeah, and that's really important because online is a component of every business's success at this point. Most people are stumbling on that. They're 3 years behind, I find. I want to know how you got here. So I want to hear Mo's origin story. That's what a lot of people are curious about. Is like, how did this person end up on Fred's podcast? And so, how did you get started on this whole journey in your life?
Again, honored to be on the podcast today, Fred. The turning point for my story, it started with a sign. And before we get to the sign, I'll give this some context. So I'm from a family where the definition of success is education and degrees, and specifically science degrees. And I know you can connect because, you've got a big thing going on in the dental industry, Fred. And so I did that. I got 3 degrees. And I started my career in the medical and the healthcare field. I got a nice job, I got a nice house in a nice neighborhood, bought a nice car. And at the end of every year, I would always feel apparently successful. But my year was just this blur of working 16-hour shifts, and I had no experiences, no free time, no me time, which brings me very nicely to the sign. So remember, I'm from a world of where science is everything. The definition of success is all things science. And one day I see this sign, and the sign says, "How to be successful." And that "How to be successful" sign, it was an ad for a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. So I read every single book recommended in the back of The Success Principles. And the forking road I had was, do I go all in to discover more about this so-called actual success, or do I stick to my path of apparent success that I was already on? And of course, Fred, you know this more than most. If you up-level your skills, you up-level your options. So I did that. I invested thousands of hours and many tens of thousands of dollars learning from whoever's the best in the world. I traveled to Europe, to the USA, Canada, Asia, wherever the best in the world was. And eventually, I got expertise in 4 key areas: online business, sales and marketing, public speaking, and personal development. This led me to work for Tony Robbins. I managed to add tons of value for tons of high achievers over there whilst working for Tony Robbins as a mentor and as a coach. And Also, I generated tens of millions of dollars in terms of the programs and the events. And one of the highlights was generating $1 million of sales in 90 days. And I realized that actual success, well, let's back up a little bit. I realized that apparent success is when someone else decides what success looks like for you, whereas actual success includes fulfillment and the flexibility to design your ideal lifestyle the way you want it, how you want it. And so today, obviously, I teach my clients that between online business and offline fulfillment via coaching, you can curate the lifestyle that you wish to create.
I love that term apparent success because it really encapsulates the illusion of most of what people consider success because it's outward, the observation of your success rather than your fulfillment from your success, which could be zero relative to an apparent success of 80 or 90% or be a one percenter or a 0.1 percenter. Welcome, welcome to another episode of the Superbold podcast. I'm Fred Joyal, and I'm here with Mo Salami today. And as you know, I like to dig into people's lives and their bold moves that they made along the way, and the times they hesitated and missed out and got a regret instead, and what they did about it. Now, Mo, I'm really excited to talk to him. We're part of Brand Builders Group, which is an amazing organization based in Nashville. But Mo's got an incredible background, along with speaking five different languages. He's big in the Romance languages: French, Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese. Amazing. But he's an online marketing expert, and he's a certified coach, and he was a senior mentor for Tony Robbins' organization and generated millions of dollars in sales for that organization. And he's got thousands of hours coaching out there, helping businesses grow. And we're going to talk about all this stuff. You're going to get staggering value about it, but we're going to get right into it now. Mo, so excited to have you on the show.
So thank you so much for the invitation, and let's do some bold things on this call.
Yes, but for sure. Yeah. So uh, your primary focus now is to coach uh, businesses and how would you say you impact them? What is what you impact the most in a business when you're coaching it?
So coaching businesses for me means two things. One is the impact via growing or scaling your online business. And then secondly, 80% of success, more than that even, is the mindset. So we deal with the mindset piece, the high performance piece, and also the strategies for the actual online business itself.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really important because online is a component of every business's success at this point, and most people are stumbling on that. They're 3 years behind, I find, and so. I want to, but I want to know how you got here. So I want to hear Mo's origin story. That's what a lot of people are curious about. Is like, how did this person end up on Fred's podcast? And so, how did you get started on this whole journey in your life?
Again, honored to be on the podcast today, Fred. The turning point for my story, it started with a sign. And before we get to the sign, I'll give this some context. So I'm from a family where the definition of success is education and degrees, and specifically science degrees. And I know you can connect because you've got a big thing going on in the dental industry, Fred. And so I did that. I got 3 degrees, and I started my career in the medical and the healthcare field. I got a nice job, I got a nice house in a nice neighborhood, bought a nice car, and at the end of every year, I would always feel apparently successful. But my year was just this blur of working 16-hour shifts, and I had no experiences, no free time, no me time, which brings me very nicely to the sign. So remember, I'm from a world of where science is everything. The definition of success is all things science. And one day I see the sign, and the sign says, "How to be successful." And that "How to be successful" sign, it was an ad for a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. So I read every single book recommended in the back of The Success Principles, and the fork in the road I had was, do I go all in to discover more about this so-called actual success, or do I stick to my path of apparent success that I was already on? And of course, Fred, you know this more than most, if you up-level your skills, you up-level your options. So I did that. I invested thousands of hours and many tens of thousands of dollars learning from whoever's the best in the world. I traveled to Europe, to the USA, Canada, Asia, wherever the best in the world was. And eventually I got expertise in four key areas: online business, sales and marketing, public speaking, and personal development. This led me to work for Tony Robbins. I managed to add tons of value for tons of high achievers over there whilst working for Tony Robbins as a mentor and as a coach. And also, I generated tens of millions of dollars in terms of the programs and the events. And one of the highlights was generating $1 million of sales in 90 days. And I realized that actual success, well, let's back up a little bit. I realized that apparent success is when someone else decides what success looks like for you, whereas actual success includes fulfillment and the flexibility to design your ideal lifestyle the way you want it, how you want it. And so today, obviously, I teach my clients that between online business and offline fulfillment via coaching, you can curate the lifestyle that you wish to create.
I love that term, apparent success, because it really encapsulates the illusion of most of what people consider success, because it's outward, the observation of your success rather than your fulfillment from your success, which could be zero relative to an apparent success of 80 or 90%, or be a 1%er or a 0.1%er. Yeah, so I love that statement of yours. And I'm pausing here because there's a reconnection issue. Yeah, I love that statement that you just made, and that term apparent success, because it really encapsulates the illusion of a lot of what people consider success, because it's outward. It's not what you're experiencing internally, because somebody could have uh, be a 1%er or a 0.1%er in terms of success, but internally they're a zero. They have zero fulfillment and satisfaction from that success. So uh, what you're helping people to do, along with the business side of it, that helping them work in the online world, is from all of your coaching experience, you and obviously working with Tony in that organization, helping people to find fulfilling success. And that's what I've figured out how to do over the years. But I know so many people who that's their biggest struggle, because America doesn't reward that or give credit to that. And so when you see somebody who's in that struggle, what would be the first thing that you would say to them, or you would ask them?
I guess the first thing that I would point out to them in some way, or have them conclude and point out to me, is that most people, they stay comfortable living this lifestyle that they loathe. And it's very few people that get uncomfortable to create a lifestyle that they love. And that means that you have all this success on this wall over here, but it doesn't feel right. You know, you're a 1%er on the outside, like you said, a 0%er on the inside, and then now navigating to become a 90%er on the inside in terms of fulfillment. That's kind of scary. It definitely requires boldness.
Yeah, and you know, I talk a lot in my book about you have to be willing to be uncomfortable to not let life pass you by, essentially. The pursuit of comfort as an end in itself can be a real problem in life, because it should be a place where you go back and recharge yourself and then get out into the world and be uncomfortable and take risk and chase your dreams, whether they are ever realized or not. And so when you actually took the time to read my book, and I appreciate that, because I think we're very aligned on the that what's required is to make bold steps in your life that feel uncomfortable, so you expand your comfort zone. That's the net result. But you're finding out what fulfills you. Now, when you decided to break away from Tony's organization, that was a pretty bold move, I think, because you decided, I'm going to be my own entity out here in the world." Uh, how did that happen? How did that go?
It seems like you said it's just really about becoming uncomfortable. You know, I always say that, and you mentioned it, alluded to it just now, that tolerating uncomfortable is the quickest way to navigate to comfortable. And it's just, I think how it went, I'll be general in my answer, in that I've always stepped into uncomfort more or less my whole life, because usually that leads somewhere good. Most things you want to do with any significance to your fulfillment probably require comfort, at least at the start. So for me, it was just it went absolutely fine, in the love everyone over there, exchanging lots of messages even yesterday, to be fair, wherever the holiday period right now. And yeah, it was just absolutely fine, in that navigating uncomfortable is something that I've always done to get to comfortable.
So how many years ago did you go out on your own and become a speaker and a business coach?
So it was 3 years ago. And the reason for the hesitation is because it was 3 years ago. But however, in terms of online business and um, all the other bits and bobs involved, when I saw the sign, that was many years ago. That was well over a decade ago. Um, so I went from the all things science related, right, 3 degrees, to Tony Robbins' world, to going out on my own. So that first peak, if you will, going from the sign towards Tony's world and personal development, that was a good decade and a half ago. And then going all out on my own, that was 3 years ago.
Fantastic. And so, um, what was the biggest personal obstacle you felt, where you went, where maybe your confidence flagged a little bit as you went out there, or did you just start kicking butt right away? Did you just was it just instant breakthrough into your next career?
I'd say both. I'd say yes and no to both. In terms of, I knew that I was qualified, in that I'd been in the online business world for so long, and I'd just been, in that space for a long time. I've been on many stages for so long. I've been in the personal development world at such a deep level for so long. So on that, and then I knew I could get results, and I had done it for such a long time as well. And so that part was fine. However, the biggest piece was the identity piece, because, and I'll be really, really real here, my name wasn't Mo, my name was Mo, hashtag Tony Robbins senior mentor. And that was like, because I go all in. I go in, as in, um, when I worked for Tony, I had attended all of his programs, not once, not 10 times. Some of them I've been to like 50 times. Online business, I've been down the rabbit hole. So I really go all in. And my reason is because I want to serve my client. If someone's in front of me as a client, or I'm mentoring or coaching, I need them to know that they're in front of someone who's gone all in to do the best for them. So then what that does, and you don't realize, is that it has a, a hit, if you will, or a nudge on your identity. So for me, the biggest piece was sort of detaching myself from Mo hyphen that other part to just Mo, and then someone who's gone off on his own, and that was the biggest part.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a similar thing happened to me as I separated from 1-800 dentist, because I was literally the 1-800 dentist guy. Many times people didn't actually know my name. But eventually the books allowed me to separate my entity as a dental marketing expert from the company itself. And now I'm rebranding myself as the boldness expert, which is, it's just a whole other path. And I've got the stage experience and the writing experience, but I'm an unknown in this way. And you are an all-in guy, because you watched a bunch of my podcasts before you came on the show, along with reading the book, and that really speaks to your uh, dedication. But I think people are saying, well, this guy's an online expert, Fred. Ask him some stuff, some tactical stuff. Like, what? Give me two or three things that people that you discover are doing wrong in the online world.
So Fred, first of all, I want to call you out on something you said. You're definitely not an unknown. You're definitely so awesome in your space. Your message about boldness has such an incredible clarity to it that it's incredible. And I love that piece about you don't have to be confident to be bold. There's so many pieces that stuck out. So I just wanted to mention that. So in terms of two things that people do wrong. Wrong is a bit of a funny word, but two things people do wrong are, the first one is they go down the they go down the route of just posting randomly to social media. There's no, like, I guess, marketing foresight to it. It's just post, 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 just random posts, and then everything will work out well, right? That's the first thing people tend to do. And the second thing that people tend to do, it probably seems to make sense on the surface, which is they put out a minimum viable product, or they put out a product. What should we sell to the audience? And then they try and, like, shoehorn, friends and family and random people around them to buy this thing, build it and they will come, right? And so this is what I see that's the most common, for people in the online world. And what we could be doing differently is, instead of a minimum viable product, starting with a minimum viable audience. And that is a group, an initial group that loves what you're about, loves what you represent, loves what you teach, and they want to learn from you, the way that you teach it, even though there are other people that are out there. And then once you have that minimum viable audience, one of my amazing mentors, Abraham, I have so many J's in my life at this point. Jay Abraham talks about the strategy of preeminence. Serve your clients at a really deep level is the overview, and they will tell you how they want you to serve them. At that point, make your offer or bring out your product. And in terms of the social media piece, that's fine as long as there's a strategy behind it. You know, you're sending them to your site, you're sending them to a call, you're sending them to your DMs. So that's what I would say.
It's interesting that you know Jay as well, because Jay and I are friends, and we're always talking about doing stuff together. And he has an abundance of insights. But we also, Rory Vaden also talks about, um, you don't need 1 million followers. You need 1,000 people who really appreciate and value what you're doing for them. And so when you use this term, but minimum viable audience, which I love because it's not a bunch of friends who are just liking you or a bunch of followers that actually never log in or are not potential clients even of yours or real followers of yours. I mean, there's people with 100,000 followers and 30 fans in that mix. And it looks really great, except they have no traction. They have no reach, which in advertising is the baseline. What is your reach to the people who are your potential customers, clients, people you can serve? And then of course Seth Godin's term of raving fans. Who are your raving fans? That's what you that's to me is your minimum viable audience is 100, 200 raving fans.
Right. Absolutely. And the the level of insight you have, Fred, is incredible. I could go in so many directions with what you just said. It's unbelievable. But I'll go down this one, which is that, you know, why would, if I use myself as an example, why would I go down the road of expertise when it comes to those areas, online business, personal development, public speaking, um, you know, learning from the best in the world, going to whoever's the best, all that great stuff. And the reason is because there are people out there, for example, who need to learn about boldness, and they need to learn about it from Fred, the way that Fred teaches it. And now they also need to, and again, Rory says this part, which is they also need to hear your frequency. They need to hear Fred's frequency versus all the other noise that's out there. And, on my end, the reason for really going maybe over the top for that expertise is because that person that needs you, when you can serve them, sure, you're helping them perhaps with their mission, perhaps with their mindset, but it also impacts at least 8 people. If I assume their significant other, their family, their extended family. So it's so important that, sure, we get the raving fans and we have the 1,000 true fans like Kevin Kelly, but also we have to be raving fans of our raving fans to serve them at the deepest level possible, because our mission is to make a change for them. It's not to dabble, as J. Abraham would say, it's just to go all in and serving them at the deepest level.
I love that. And of course, now you're going to mention Kevin Kelly. It's like we're so in tune. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm holding up Kevin Kelly's excellent advice for living, which I read every day. I read something from it every day. I couldn't recommend many books more than that. But you used a term, my frequency, which I think that's a really, I don't know if that's something you've worked with or that you got from someone, but I love that idea of that you have to create your own frequency that you speak at, like your own radio station that not everybody's going to listen to, not everybody cares. You're one place on the dial, and your audience has to resonate with your frequency, but that's all you need. And so the clearer you are about what your frequency is, what comes across on your channel, the more the right people can find you.
Right. I understood the concept of frequency on some level, but I understood it from the level of, I really want to serve people to the best I can. And I heard about the strategy of preeminence. We keep mentioning J. Abraham, love J. Abraham. But the first time I heard someone verbalize it in a way that made me jump up and go, aha, was Roy Vaden, who mentioned that you could have, 10 different people teaching in certain name of the subject, but they connect, Fred, they connect with you because of something about you that's similar. They go, you know, oh, Fred has a background in dentistry or helping dentists, and my sister's a dentist. Or Fred did stand up. I watched stand up. Or Fred's wearing, is it a grey shirt today? Fred's wearing a grey shirt. I own a grey shirt. So it's like, because they love your message and it's so clear that you can be bold. And by the way, you can be bold without having the confidence. They love the message and they're just looking for something to connect with you. And they'll go, wait a minute, Fred, I had a friend called Fred. Or Fred, I had a friend called I had a friend called Ned. It's like they're looking for something because obviously,
Anything that makes them feel familiar. Now, what makes a lot of people feel familiar is I was a painful introvert growing up, so they can resonate with that because they go, oh, like because he wasn't like this. Because when people meet me now and I've come off stage or something like that, or we're meeting at an event or something like that, and I say, I was a classic poster child for introversion. I was the wallflower that even wallflowers wouldn't talk to. And they say, I don't even believe that about you. And so I let them know that this has been a lifelong journey for me, but it was those insights of discomfort and taking risk and not being confident that created this loop of uh, positivity and positive feedback by trying stuff, being uncomfortable, and saying, "Wow, that went way better than I thought." And it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, and it's still just I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's also I'm starting to post every day on social media uh, what bold move I've made the day before or a couple of moves that I made in one day because I try to do something bold every day. And usually in it there's the bold thing I could have done and then still I could have been bolder. I could have done a little more. And I'll give you an example because we're recording this 2 days after Easter Sunday. And on Easter Sunday, I was going to this storage compartment where I had stuff. And there was in the back of the building, there's a woman with a car, and she was sitting in the car and it was full of stuff. And there was a large child in the back seat, and you could sense she lived in her car. And I saw her, and I was feeling a lot of compassion for her situation on Easter Sunday. But I drove away, and then I stopped myself, and I said, I got to go back. And I drove back and I pulled up next to her and her window was open halfway and I opened my window and I just said, are you okay? And she said, yes. And I said, do you need anything? And she said, no, no, I'm okay. And I said, okay, good. Happy Easter. And I drove away. And as I drove away and as I was traveling along by myself, I thought, I should have given her some money. I should have just gotten out of my car and dropped 20 or 40 bucks in her window and said, I'm sure this would help, even if you don't need it. Everybody could use 40 bucks. And I didn't do it. So I still get these regrets because I could have been bolder. And it makes me be bolder the next time to fulfill the full boldness that I could be so that I'm not carrying this I should have around. So I think that's what people can resonate with is like, I'm not a giant show off all the time, the charismatic 100% of the time everywhere I go. I'm still working on my boldness every day. But it's pretty darn satisfying. I'm a lot happier with myself that I went back and talked to her because she could have said, "Boy, I could use some blankets," which I probably would have had in my storage that I could have given her. Or she said, we're just hoping to eat something," and I could have, she could have given me the response. So at least I wasn't, carrying the full regret, but I still had like a 30% regret. Um, and so what's a bold move that you've made recently? Can you think of something? They can be on a very simple level. It doesn't have to be, could be, you know, telling a friend something they really needed to hear, or apologizing to somebody. It could be anything. I'm giving examples for other people to think about more than you. But can you think of one, Mo?
So I can. So as you mentioned, we just had Easter, and I can certainly think of huge, bold moves I've made in general. But I'll give you a bold move that was a smaller bold move, and I'll preface it by saying that when you met that lady and you've said to her, how are you? Um, it'll be interesting to get her take on it because the amount of people that would have just gone past and they weren't bold enough to say, "How are you?" or acknowledge her, or they just didn't even realize, or they were doing her own thing. I'll be surprised if a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, she'll say, "Do you know, there was this one time at Easter when someone came up to me, drove past, turned around, and just asked me how I was. And that really fueled me, for the rest of my Easter Sunday. And I had a really amazing rest of that month and the one after. And it's something that I really remember now. So sometimes we put a label on uh, what we think what we think we should have done, and sure, but also sometimes we don't realize that massive impact our bold move had, even if it was a seemingly smaller bold move. So I want to say that. In terms of something bold I did recently, I don't even know if this is bold, but it's something I did recently, which was over the holiday period. I always, as a thing, take out my phone, take out my messaging, take out my socials, and I will message people who have meant something to me in my life. And I did that over this period, and I'd send out easily a few hundred. I'd leave it as that, a few hundred messages, and written, in this case, Happy Easter, Happy this, and acknowledging. And I'd say this is a bold move because on the flip side, you might be reaching out to some people who are like, why? But the reason I'm doing that is because I have so many people around me, be it friends or family or circles or similar. And so I want to do it because there might be that one person, it's like Christmas or the holidays or Thanksgiving, who do not have anyone by them. And by seeing that message come through that, hey, hope you're doing great, happy holidays. So that's a bold thing that I do. And sometimes I wonder, is it a good thing? And then when you see the responses back, you realize it was a good thing.
Well, and that's the the bold aspect of this for everyone to understand is you do it without an expectation of some result other than that it's something you want to put out. And I think people are hesitant to act kindly, act appreciative, in fear maybe that it won't be as well received as they would like, which is, unfortunate. I want to say silly, but it's not silly. I know everybody has issues and repression and things like that, and fears and fear of rejection. Um, but it's not just about boldness and taking a big risk, starting a business, quitting your job, whatever, asking somebody to dance with you, uh, you know, trying to close big deals. It's also about to be kind. If say, oh, wow, I'm uncomfortable just offering this compliment. Why am I like that? What's stopping me? And the answer, of course, as we know, as you know from reading my book, that's what's stopping you. And of course, Tony and you would be coaching people on that all the time. I'm pretty sure I derived that from Tony Robbins myself. This whole idea is we're the number one individual stopping us in life. And so help me, Mo. So
Um, I would,
I'm stopping myself too.
I would go as far as to say boldness equals beauty. Boldness equals beauty because life. Let's get a bit philosophical here. Like, life is about moments, and there's so many moments where I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda, but you don't because you're not bold enough. But then again, boldness equals beauty, and once you have beauty in your life, you get to dance. Whether choreographed or not, you get to dance in your rhythm, and these can be big rhythms, small rhythms. You get to experience passions that you have. We spoke about languages a little bit before this call, or you get to start that business, or you get to stop someone who's needy and just give them a hand. And that for them is worth so much more than the sack of coins, like sack of gold, for example. So boldness equals beauty because you get to infuse fulfillment, passion, joy, all these different emotions versus the metric that we use, which is a it's just a great metric, of course, which is just success and the bank balance and the wins that we get at the end. A lot of the wins that we get at the end, they leave a trail on the way. And I'm saying on the way, you can also have beautiful moments, beautiful wins. There's something you said twice on this call, which was about, I paraphrase, which is about going for it without any guarantee of success, like really going in. For me, that equals boldness, and for me, that equals beauty as well.
I mean, I love that. I love because that's what you start to experience about the world is that you can spread joy by your boldness. You can spread appreciation by your boldness. You can impact somebody by seeing that you care about them. And that you noticed something, whether you're just complimenting a waitress and saying, your service is just tremendous. I hope your boss appreciates how well you represent this business. And you can say that to anybody in any occupation, any service industry. It takes about 5 seconds to do that. 10, 20 seconds, maybe if you want to elaborate, but it'll last for days. Who knows what that person needed? You could be the one bit of encouragement they needed to stop a downward slide in their feeling about themselves that day or that week or that month or that year, and they start to lift and say, yeah, I am worthy. So
So
and I am significant, and people do notice and appreciate me.
And it's so funny because in amongst the waves of people that do not notice, for the fact you noticed, that will fuel them. I try to, not try to, let's go back on that word try. Each week, a few times, I call out someone. That's talk of a coach, right? Call it, checking out my own words. But I will call out someone. And it's so funny, like I'll stop someone a few times a week and I'll say, excuse me, do you mind if I give you some feedback? And they go, okay. And the presupposition is it's something negative. But no, I say to them, the way that you did X, actually, I really appreciated it. I could see the care you put into this and the result that you got. And, I just want to say thank you. And you can see them stunned, like super stunned. it's like 99 times out of 999 times out of 1,000 stunned to get positive feedback. And again, that's something that just by being bold and reaching out to them, all of a sudden you've fueled something inside of them where they realize that, oh, by the way, as you mentioned, I am significant, or should I say they are significant. And there you go.
It reminds me of this office manager in a dental practice. She told me this story that she'd worked for this doctor for 18 years. And every day at the end of the day, he thanked her for the work she did that day, specifically to her. You know, thank you so much, Marcia. Another great day. I really appreciate everything that you do here. And she said, even if he was on the phone, maybe talking to another specialist about a case, he would just say, hang on, because if I'm walking out the door, he would stop and say, you know, Marcia, thank you so much. And that meant everything to her. He didn't have to worry about whether he was paying her enough. He was paying her in the currency that made the most difference. And think about how much of that currency we all have that we're just not spending, like we need to hang on to it. And guess what? It doesn't do anything when you hang on to it. It's not like a savings account. You got to empty that savings, your currency, all the time, so that you can see the impact that it can have on people. And that's it. I think we all uh, expect, like you're saying, most people, when they're working and doing their job, what they get is critique, criticism, complaints, resentment, anger. Somewhere on that spectrum is what people are much more comfortable telling them about in the service industry, for example. But when you say, can I offer you some feedback? Here it comes, they think, oh no. And you say, you know, what you do is exemplary. What I experienced from you is extraordinary and just wanted you to know that. Because their expectation was the opposite. The impact you have is profound by doing the simplest thing. So I if you get anything out of this podcast from listening to Mo and me, start doing that. Understand how to spend this currency and the impact it can have on people.
Right. And as Fred, as you would say, even if there's not the 100% confidence there, still step into the boldness. You know, you mentioned that, you know, I've read the book, which I have, and anyone listening to this, definitely recommend, you know, I went the Amazon route. Don't know if there's another route, you know, go grab the book, give it a read. It's definitely worth the time spent for sure.
So Mo, how could somebody if what is your preferred way to work with people and how, or to invite people in to work with you? What's the best way to track you down and extract some of your brilliance?
The best way to track me down. So I help overachievers that seek the next level. You know, maybe you have apparent success right now, you have success externally, right? But you want some more fulfillment in addition to your success. I help you go from apparent success to actual success. And I do that via two ways. One is via impact and fulfillment. The impact piece is via enhancing your growing or scaling your online business. And the fulfillment piece is all around coaching. So if you wanted to reach out to me, if this call resonates, go to mosalami.com/free call to schedule a lifestyle design strategy session. You will get some amazing value on the session as well, some amazing takeaways. And also, um, a lot of times there's an intersection, Fred, where we both connect, which is yours is through boldness, mine is through something else. But ultimately, a lot of times people have regrets because they don't take the step to go that next level for what it is that they want to do. And um, ultimately, one of the reasons is a lack of clarity. So even on that lifestyle design strategy session, I get you really clear on what does that next level look like for you, and what are the steps for that next level, whether you go do it with me, whether you go do it with someone else, but you're putting yourself in front of 98% of the population in just having that crystal clear clarity on what success and fulfillment looks like for you. So mosalami.com/free call.
Okay, and that's the beauty is Salami is spelled exactly how you think it is, but Mo is just M-O. So mosalami.com. For those of you just listening and can't see his name on the screen, it'll also be in the show notes as well for how you can reach out to Mo. Mo, thanks so much. I feel like I want to dive deep into this, in 6 months or a year from now and see what new things you've discovered. But this has just been a very, I think, impactful conversation for me personally, and hopefully for everybody else on so many levels. So I thank you so much for your time and look forward to seeing amazing success, and hope we run into each other sometime out on the road or a brand builders event, and we get to, you know, express our appreciation to Rory and AJ Vaden and their incredible organization. So again, thank you, my friend.
Fred, thank you so much for the invitation, and it's been amazing.